Hello everyone, welcome to another video. This time we're going to be looking at Britain's first petrol station. Today the site of Britain's first petrol station is a lay-by on the A4 Bath Road, with no indication of its historical significance. So this location is on the south side of the Bath Road, known as the A4, close to the junction with Station Road and Grange Lane, and today marked by a lay-by. The spot lies about 2 miles from Aldermaston village and approximately 1/3 of a mile from Aldermaston Wharf. So if you live near there and you have a picture of roughly where it is, I'd appreciate it if you could pop it in the comments because I can't find it anywhere. So onto the story itself. There were no specialist filling stations in Britain for early motorists. Instead, petrol was obtained usually in relatively small quantities from a variety of outlets, including cycle dealers, hotels, ironmongers, chemists, repair garages, blacksmiths and general stores. After a change in the law in 1900 concerning the storage of fuel, petrol was commonly sold in 2-gallon cans. Serving fuel from a pump began in the United States in around 1908, with dedicated filling stations beginning to appear in about 1911. In Britain, the first roadside pump was installed outside the premises of Legg and Charmier, possibly on Abbey Foregate in Shrewsbury, in 1914, but perhaps surprisingly this did not give rise to any kind of standardised filling station. The initiative for the creation of petrol stations as we know them today came from the AA, otherwise known as the Automobile Association, in an attempt to help its members obtain British-made benzol, an early form of motor spirit derived from coal tar and gas. It so was promoted as a cheaper alternative to Russian imported petrol and as a patriotic response to the repression and atrocities carried out by the Bolsheviks against their political opponents. The station was intended for members' use only, and the AA made no profit on the fuel. The Aldermaston station had an underground tank, a Bowser pump inside the building with the hose bin through the window, a compressor for inflating tyres, a fire extinguisher and a shitter, described by Trevor Lord as of bucket type and seldom used. I wonder why. Other filling stations, or replenishment pits as they were apparently known, followed on from the Aldermaston. Amongst those were those at Blue Boar Corner on the Coventry-Dunchurch Road and at Bramham Moor 10 miles north of Leeds. During the late 1920s and early 30s, the AA stations were gradually sold off. The last of these to go was at Mere Corner on the A556, close to Tatton Park in Cheshire. This was in 1932. Now, quite obviously that wasn't the end for the petrol station. There are quite a few that exist now, and there was quite a few that have now been taken over, names changed or disappeared altogether. Please do pop it in the comments for the ones that you do remember that don't exist anymore. And we'll see what people come up with. Now, quite obviously the supermarkets also got in on the act, and they have an interesting history with petrol stations in the UK. So while the first petrol station was in 1919, it wasn't until 1967 when Asda opened its first petrol station in Halifax, and obviously then the other supermarkets got in on the action. Over the following years, the other brands looked to add petrol stations to their stores, and by 2004 they had approximately a 26% share of the market. Their pricing structure often saw fuel as a loss leader, with supermarkets selling fuel on very low margins, occasionally selling to the general public at a price cheaper than the independent operators could purchase from the oil companies. While the operators would generally look to put in a petrol station to a new supermarket if appropriate, their strategies for standalone sites were completely different. The Co-op took the majority of Texaco branded sites when the oil company pulled out of direct retailing, but over the years most of the others looked at some kind of franchise tie-up, such as BP with M&S. and this was very successful. However, most of the others didn't work long term for one reason or another. For the last 10 to 15 years, there's been little demand for standalone sites from the supermarkets, but the last few years have changed this. And one of the main reasons for this is probably relating to the largest petrol station owners becoming supermarket owners. In May 2021, Euro Garages announced the acquisition of Asda, followed in October that year by GD&R, the owners of MFG, acquiring Morrisons. These new owners seem to have brought a new emphasis on fuel to the supermarkets. Since then, Asda has acquired the entirety of the Co-op's petrol station portfolio, along with the majority of Euro Garage's portfolio. However, last year, Euro Garages announced that they were going to franchise some of their remaining sites to the Co-op in branded merry-go-round. Meanwhile, Morrisons has gone the other way to Asda and disposed of all of their petrol stations to MFG, but continue to concentrate on increasing the Morrisons daily franchise. In May this year, the 100th Rontec site was announced as being under the Morrisons daily banner. Sainsbury and Tesco have been quiet in the market, but will their competitors' movement bring them back to the market? Well, personally, I couldn't really give a crap. Now, one thing I've always wondered, quite obviously, you will have an Asda petrol station that will sell, say, £1.29 a litre, and then obviously you'll go 3 or 4 miles down the road, it'll be something like £1.33 a litre, and you think, well, it's the same person who's supplying it, so why the hell is it a different price? Well, let's have a look at the bullshit excuses. Areas with strong competition, especially from supermarkets, tend to have lower fuel prices. Supermarkets can offer lower prices by relying on their grocery business and potentially lower overhead costs. Now here's another one, a perler. Petrol stations further from refineries or in more remote locations may charge higher prices due to transportation costs and lower sales volume. Motorway service stations often have higher prices because drivers can be forced to fill up due to their lack of other options. Got you by the bollocks. Supermarkets often offer lower fuel prices due to their lower margin strategy and ability to utilise their established retail networks. But then again, I will turn around and say they're a different price wherever you go. Basically, I think it's all bull crap. I mean, at the end of the day, you put in the comments what you think. Quite obviously, petrol station petrol is got slightly less additives than the actual, let's say, Esso would supply. Tesco, they're going to put less additives and stuff in there, and obviously have a more richer fuel come from their own forecourts. But they all have to conform to minimum British standards, so one is less crap for your car than the other, basically. So anyway, I'll stop rabbiting on now. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a like and give it a share. If you like